here. This is a public hearing in docket 8301, in re renewal of the Certificate of Public Good of Comcast of Connecticut, Georgia, Massachusetts, New Hampshire, New York, North Carolina, Virginia, Vermont, LLC, doing business as Comcast, expiring on December 29, 2016, to provide cable television service. I'm Jim Volz. I'm the chairman of the Public Service Board. With me in Montpelier is Sarah Hoffman. She's a board member. And in White River Junction, Margaret Cheney, another board member, is present. This evening, the public hearing is being conducted at 13 sites throughout the state, utilizing the facilities of the Vermont Interactive Television Network. The purpose of this public hearing is to provide an opportunity to hear input regarding the proposed renewal of a Certificate of Public Good for Comcast to provide cable television service in 197 Vermont cities, towns, and GORs. Cable television certificates of public good have a term of 11 years, and Comcast's current Certificate of Public Good expires on December 29, 2016. This is not the only forum for input. The board also welcomes letters and emails. You can find the contact information at the board's website, which is psb.vermont.gov. Tonight's public hearing will be transcribed by a court reporter. This transcript, along with all other comments received by the board, become part of the public file so that the board members, staff, and the participants in the case can review and consider the comments. The public comments are helpful in raising new issues or perspectives that the board should consider, and these comments often provide the basis for questions that we raise with parties during the evidentiary hearing that will take place. Additional information about this proceeding is available on the board's website. The purpose of tonight's hearing is to hear from the public. Parties to the case will not be given an opportunity to speak tonight. This is because they will have an opportunity to present their cases during the technical hearings and other formal proceedings in this case. We will hear from 2 members of the public at each VIT site before moving on to the next site, rotating through the sites as many times as necessary to hear from everyone who would like to speak. We will begin by hearing from the first 2 speakers on the sign-up sheet here in Montpelier. So I'd like to turn first to Mr. Winton Goodrich. If you'd like to speak, go right ahead.
Right. My name is Winton Goodrich. I'm the superintendent of schools for the Franklin Northwest Supervisory Union, which is in the northwest corner of the state, bordering Lake Champlain and the Canadian border. We televise school board meetings for 5 school districts and our supervisory union through public access cable, channel 15 and 16 out of St. Albans. I also produce television shows about education issues on our PEG network. Here are the items that are of interest to us. Faster internet speeds for complementary accounts for schools, for towns, for families, and in access television centers. The concern is the current speeds offered are nearly useless to many of these locations, and many of them pay additional fees to Comcast to increase the speed to a useful level. The modern statewide network in Comcast's vast service territory from Brattleboro to Bennington, St. Albans, they're in a position to be key players in advancing a state-of-the-art network with many capabilities. The end of Vermont Interactive Television is close at hand, and with continuing expansion of online learning, the Vermont Public Service Board could be visionary in addressing future education needs for Vermont students. Some needs cannot be foreseen as we attempt to envision technology for 2027, which is the final year of the Comcast license period. But now's the time for the infrastructure to allow for these new capabilities. Other ideas, more cable line extensions in rural areas. Many towns in Franklin County have no access, including Franklin, Enosburg, Richford, Montgomery, Berkshire, Bakersfield. Improved signal quality for access TV. We have no access to high-def channels currently. Donation of equipment to schools who do not have access to a complementary account because of distance from cable lines. That's what I have to say.
Thank you very much. Mr. Larkin, would you like to speak at this time?
Thank you. My name is Charles Larkin. I'm a former telecommunications engineer for the Department of Public Service. And I'd like to address several issues. The first one we'll start off with is the statute 504 the rules under which you are supposed to give a certificate if they meet all these things. And I want to mention that they have to abide by state and federal construction standards, by the National Electrical Safety Code. I don't think there's any policing method to assure that they are conforming to these codes. And there should be some way to determine that they are and bring them up to speed if they aren't. There should be a set of matrix like you've given to the telecommunications utilities regarding different issues of quality of service. You could well think about those and come up with ones similar to the ones you have in the telephone industry. And these have to be enforced by you or the board department. And level of complaints of different kinds should be one of the matrix. The line extension policy, I don't understand what happened, but I'll explain what I went into. When I helped decide where a cable company should have its initial build in numerous areas in Vermont, numerous towns, I drove every single town, every single mile that was passable by car, determined how many homes per mile were passed. And we came up with an equation based upon each company's audited books to determine how many homes per mile they would need in their system annually, which might change as time things happen. An example of that was it used to be 60 homes a mile, then it went to 35, but then it went down to 20 and even 15 in some more lucrative franchises. Obviously, it's probably less lucrative now with the inroads from Netflix and internet and all these things. But the point was that once it was built, the company was required to annually determine the homes per mile in their areas that were yet to be built, as this gentleman was talking about. And they had to go out and determine how many homes per mile they were passing, and if they passed the magic number, they had to build it the next year. Now I understand the policy leaves it to the consumers to get together somehow and create some kind of group effort to convince the company to do it. I think it should revert back to what it used to be. Require the companies to go out, determine how many homes they're passing, determine how many homes they have to pass for that company to be able to break even, and then make them build it. Funding. You've got a big problem with funding. It's now only collected from the cable companies on their revenues. It should be connected from all of the utilities who are using the right-of-way of the people. Let them all chip in, though it would be painful to some of the utilities like electrical to have to start paying. It would lower the cable company's level of tax greatly. All of them would pay a lower fee because there'd be many, many different groups participating. And the 10-year plan, how can you decide what you want to do regarding CPGs and telecommunications issues, cable, telephone, internet, if you don't even have a plan telling you where you should be going and how to get there? Statewide, I'm talking about, a statewide plan. How can you figure out what's appropriate and reasonable if you don't even know where you're going, don't even know where you're starting from, and have no idea how to get from A to B? I think that you should not allow any CPG be granted unless there is a valid and bona fide 10-year plan that is meaningful and useful, not aspirational. And that, I think, would make a big difference. And
Thank you.
I thank you for your time.
You're welcome. Thank you. At this time, I'd like to go to Bennington. I understand there are 6 people there who wish to testify, and we'd like to hear from the first 2 from Bennington.
I'll start. My name is Seth Bongartz. Others will talk about the importance of, for instance, cable access being included in a program guide. I want to focus on the importance of positioning cable access stations to provide high-quality live broadcasts. I have two jobs in my community of Manchester. I'm the president of Hildene, and I chair the Burton Academy Board of Directors. I'll start off by saying that our local provider, GNAT, does a very good job for both institutions by recording events, interviews, etc., and helping to expose us and our programming to the wider world. We're grateful for that service. I know that GNAT, in my role as chair of Burton in particular, has been trying since 2012, so for more than 3 years at this point, to develop the ability to provide live broadcasts at Burton. I don't pretend to understand the litany of problems they've encountered trying to get it done, but I know the process has been frustrating and they've gotten nowhere. The problem, as I understand it, part of the problem, is that nothing in the regulations speaks to how they can accomplish moving within a specific site, and language also refers to, for instance, coax cable and outdated technology. My understanding is that on a number of levels, they would actually be required to use, because of the old plan, to use outdated technology to produce third-rate quality. I guess the biggest problem along the way has been that GNAT has experienced a level of dysfunction with their communications with Comcast and their attempts to get this done, whereby they're told one thing will work, only to later be told it won't, but wait for another, and that'll happen. And that's been going on at this point for more than 3 years. So there's confusion and a lack of flexibility for non-standard need. So from the perspective of the school and the 13 towns it serves, live broadcasting of things like sports events, political forums, and various programs would be a tremendous service to everybody in those 13 towns, and would make GNAT an invaluable asset. And that's my testimony about the importance of positioning the local cable access channels to be able to do live broadcasting, and the change in the regulations that are required to really make it possible to do that in a flexible system. Thank you.
Thank you. If we could hear from the next person in Bennington.
Yeah, hi, my name is Robert Ellis. I'm an independent filmmaker. I live in Londonderry, Vermont, and I've produced a number of programs independently for GNET over the last couple of years. And I think my biggest disappointment is what I see on the screen. Because when I'm sitting at home editing and putting these pieces together, they look great. When you guys deliver them to the public, they look like crap. And I really think something's got to be done about that part of it, because I can't put the effort in that we do to try to show the community what's really going on and to give them a good picture. We're competing all the time against everything else that's on television. And when you show us as badly as you do, it doesn't help us at all. And the other aspect I have is that when I try to find out when it's on or if it's on, there's nothing in the guide. It just says local programming. Everybody else gets a full description. We don't. I mean, I think we should at least have that much, you know. And I would really like the question of quality addressed, because it makes a very big difference in how we deliver our message. And that's about all I have to say.
Thank you. Next, I'd like to go to Brattleboro, where I understand we have 9 people. I'd like to hear the first 2 of those 9.
Well, good evening. My name is Patrick Moreland. I am the Assistant Town Manager for the town of Brattleboro, and I'm here this evening to speak on behalf of the town of Brattleboro. There are 3 basic points that I'd like to make this evening. The first is the value of public access television in this community. The second is the ability of the local public access television provider to be able to provide industry standard programming. And then finally, I'd like to say a couple of words about the line extension policy as it's written in the CPG. So first of all, with respect to the value of public access television in this community, I'd like to make the point that Brattleboro is not served by any other commercial television station exclusively, and so the public is really reliant upon public access provided by BCTV for information as it relates to their local government. And BCTV does a fantastic job of covering our activities. So there is regular and routine coverage for select board meetings, development review board meetings, planning commission meetings. And each year, our annual town meeting is covered live. In addition to these regular activities which are covered, BCTV is available to work with us to develop specific informational programming to help educate and inform the public about transitions we are undertaking. So this last year, as we have undertaken a transition in complying with Act 148 of the state legislature, we were able to develop specific community programming that could be played again and again to help inform the public about their roles and responsibilities in this transition. And we think that's very important. And so I guess the point that we would like to make is that the quality of the coverage provided by BCTV represents a really critically important link between local government and the citizenry, and one we hear about routinely. So the second point I'd like to make relates to the ability of BCTV to provide industry standard programming. I think it's fairly well understood these days that high definition television has become the standard of the industry. The irony here is that BCTV regularly records their programming in high definition television. However, by the time it's presented to viewers, it's been scaled back to standard definition, losing much of its quality. We think this is a loss of quality, which is something we would prefer to live without. We'd like to see high definition programming provided for all the public access television. We think that's important, and I think the community would expect that as well. Secondly, under that same heading, I'd like to point out that viewers have become increasingly reliant upon the use of the interactive program guide for a variety of reasons, one of which is it helps to inform you of what's on BCTV right now. But because DVR technology is really linked to the use of that interactive program guide, without the program guide being able to specify what programming is coming on later, you're not really able or in a position to be able to record something in the future. So we think that those basic features are something that has become industry standard and should be made available for public access broadcasting. Finally, I'd like to speak about the Certificate of Public Good and the line extension policy. The line extension policy spells out when and how the holder of a Certificate of Public Good should provide service without seeking direct reimbursement from the individual customer for that line extension. I've looked through the CPG, I've read over the line extension policy, and I have to admit, I am not technically qualified to comment on it. But I'd like to point out that the public is reliant upon the Public Service Board to conduct their due diligence in reviewing this policy to see that it is properly calibrated, and I really would like to encourage you to do so. While I may not be technically qualified to speak to the policy as it is presently written, I think there is reason to be concerned that it may not be protecting the public interest. And I say that for two reasons. In a town like Brattleboro that has a fairly substantial population, there are still wide swaths of this community that do not benefit from access to the public access broadcasting because they're not currently being provided service. And the second and last point I would make about this is I happen to live in a neighboring town, the town of Marlboro, and the Comcast is provided with a Certificate of Public Good for Marlboro, even as no service is provided anywhere in that town. So that leads me to question whether that line extension policy has been properly calibrated with the eyes of the public in mind. And thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. I'd like to hear from the next person from Brattleboro, please.
Hi there. My name is Deb Whitkus, and I work at Greater Falls Connections up in Bellows Falls. We are a federally, state, and privately funded prevention coalition, and we serve 12 towns up in northeast Windham County. We are very reliant on our local community Fact TV, and we are funded to do media campaigns. And we target parents, businesses, we work with schools, we work with many different sectors of the community. And the majority of our work is actually media campaigns. And we're very fortunate to have Fact TV filming them for us and producing them with us. And we're concerned because we want to be able to make sure that we're reaching our target audience. If folks are no longer watching standard TV and everybody's watching high definition TV, we need to be there. We need to be reaching our community to get the information to them, to help them respond to the opiate crisis, to help get them to resources for smoking cessation. We run programs for parents to help with parenting skills. We need to be reaching our audience where they're at. So we would ask that you require in the agreement that you require that we have equal access to those that part of the programming. And also, I'm also concerned about not being listed individually in the cable guide. I know personally when I'm clicking through the TV and I see a blank and I keep on clicking, trying to figure out what's going on, there's no way to know what's going on locally. And we have no other local station that covers local events. So I would have to say, please require that we be individual programs be listed so we can reach our target audience. And it's, it is the main source of our work is through media campaigns. So thank you.
Thank you. Next, I'd like to go to Lyndonville, where I understand there's one person who wishes to speak.
Yes, thank you very much. I'm here tonight to ask Comcast what your interest would be in having a sports programming network in the state of Vermont, specifically one channel dedicated to either live or sports programming in delay. I envision a partnership with a current public access television network right now, RETN from South Burlington, who would help manage the programming aspect of this entity. By the way, my name's Eric Berry, and I'm the owner of Northeast Sports Network. We have an office in Lyndonville and in Essex, and in the past year, we broadcast over 150 high school and collegiate sporting events in the state of Vermont. Those are the sporting events that we would like to get onto a channel at some point in time on one of your Comcast channels as well. I believe there was a channel at one time, might have been Adelphia, way back in the day. But we also, in my opinion, feel there's a need, a programming need, and we could fill that void with the current game schedule that we satisfy right now. I also believe this channel should be a commercial channel, one that is supported through advertising or DVD sales or electronic download sales as well, to help offset cost of production also. Again, Eric Berry, Northeast Sports Network. If anybody has any questions, they can please call my office, 802-626-8035.
Thank you. You're stating your name reminds me that I should remind everyone that when you start to speak, please state your name clearly so the court reporter can get it down. And if it's not an obvious spelling, please spell your last name. Thank you. Next, I'd like to move to Middlebury, where I understand we have 7 people who wish to testify.
Hi, my name is Barbara Tom. I'm here just quickly to express my exasperation with Comcast, just as a television consumer. Our family subscribes to Comcast just with the very, very basic low-end television package. And recently it was cut back, but it's been cut back fairly consistently as our rates consistently go up. So I really just wanted to ask the Public Service Board if they'd kind of take a look at what's happening to the very base package at Comcast and how many times can it be cut and subtracted from and the bill go up before it's really not meeting the public good anymore. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to hear from somebody else from Middlebury.
My name is John Frieden, F-R-E-I-D-I-N. I'm an elected member of the Board of Trustees of the Ilsley Public Library in Middlebury. And we're lucky and fortunate enough to have Middlebury Community Television located in our building and work with us in terms of educating children and adults about the nature of broadcast media. Community television is as necessary Community television is as necessary as the Postal Service, the public schools, and internet access to an informed citizenry. It's essential to inform the public about local governmental affairs. It's the only place in Middlebury and the surrounding community where people who are unable to attend public meetings can actually learn what happened at those meetings. We cannot rely on commercial television broadcasts, nor can we be assured that it will be covered by local newspapers. And it's equally important to help educate local people about how televised media works and affects them and enable them to be a critical viewer. Finally, I want to say that what's important is that the funding stream for our community television station be dependable. We can't rely on something that's not dependable, and we can only plan effectively for the future if we know that our stream of funding will be reliable year after year. And I understand that there may be some threat to that because of the fact that cable television subscriptions are falling off. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next, I'd like to come to Montpelier and hear from the two people we have here. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Jim. My name is Kirk Gardner. I am an outraged and irate captive cable customer here in Montpelier. And as such, I am particularly upset about the rates we are forced to pay and the second-rate service that comes with that. It was pointed out earlier, our rates keep going up and the quality of service keeps going down. We pay among the highest rates in the world for cable service in this country and in this town, and the service we get is at best second rate. I'm upset about the speed that we're getting from the internet service. Comcast seems to be unwilling to make the necessary investments that are required if we're going to have the internet service that we're going to need tomorrow and the next day out into the future. The entire community needs that kind of service, and we're not getting it. Third, I think that we need to pay really, really strong attention to the need to extend the lines, that we do not get the kind of response from Comcast that's necessary when communities are growing on the edges of current service areas and that needs to be extended. It's not being done. And finally, it seems to me that Comcast missed a real opportunity when the current Vermont interactive television system was defunded. I don't know how easy it'd be to integrate that with the existing public access system, but certainly there was a real opportunity for Comcast to step into that void and to continue this essential service. That's all. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Pat McDonald?
Yes, thank you. My name is Pat McDonald, and my testimony will be a little bit different. I have nothing but excellent words to say about my experience with ORCA here in Montpelier, Channel 15. I have a show called Vote for Vermont. It's a half-hour show every week. It stemmed from my running for the Senate this last go-around and losing to the incumbents and being very surprised about what people know or don't know about issues. And the tagline of the show is listening beyond the sound bites. And the service that ORCA provides, I've been fortunate enough to do 32 programs in studio, and because we're able to use their equipment, we've gone out to 4 locations off-site and have brought such things as a career job fair to the audience that watches us, gone to the Vermont Food Bank to talk about food insufficiency, and to the Capstone Agency to talk about the community kitchen. The feedback has been phenomenal. Our best show was with Tom Pelham. Tom and I talked about the questions people should ask when they go to town meeting about the education budget, and the response we got from people thanking us for that information, so that they were prepared at town meeting to talk about the education budget. There was an article written in the Times-Argus which helped us a lot. We're picked up by 10 local cable stations around Vermont. And whenever the people, the guests that I have are names that I think most people that are here tonight would know, local businessmen, people that of some prominence in Vermont. And Jackie Wyrath, who's the program director, always takes the time to talk to them about the services that are provided through public access. And many have pursued those discussions about how their businesses can use the services provided. So we focus on education, economy, energy, budget, healthcare, mental health. We've done a lot of shows on entrepreneurships and how wonderful a place Vermont is for small businesses to start up here. And we've also covered social issues. I mentioned food insecurity and child abuse as well. We did a great show, sadly, on preventing child abuse. So I can only encourage you to renew this certificate. The feedback I have gotten has been very positive and just energizes me to keep going. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Next, I'd like to go to Newport, where we have two people who wish to speak.
Good evening, members of the board. My name is Sharon Campbell Byron. I live here in Newport and up in Island Ponds, which is a very rural part of the NEK. And I really like my testimony to be in support of Comcast because I have an unusual story. I started out as a community producer in Newport, and with the assistance of Todd Pronto and Terry DeFazio, I was able to do something I would never have been able to do in England, which was produce television programs for the community dealing with really hard-hitting local issues such as domestic abuse, unemployment, the difficulties of rearing children in deprived rural areas, and programs such as just basically prevention of suicide, and which is very close to my heart. So I was able to make those programs and really connect with the community, and NEK TV absolutely made that possible for me. But the interesting thing is I then got a job with the Meeting Place, which is a daycare centre in Newport for brain damaged adults suffering from all kinds of brain trauma, but also elderly people with dementia and Alzheimer's. And I actually stopped producing my community programs and took the camera, which is video camera lent to me by NEK TV, and I took that into the Meeting Place where I work, and we are now able to produce our own TV programs from inside this daycare centre. So we have 89-year-olds really making full use of these services, which if they weren't offered by Comcast, we just wouldn't be able to do it. And this has improved dementia sufferers and Alzheimer's sufferers' focus, their attention, their abilities to concentrate have actually just massively increased. They know that they're creating a program, they're writing the plot, they're able to remember the lines for the scripts. Thanksgiving plays, we started simple things like role-playing, making videos of them reading the news, and we then developed into their own TV show. So we have all these things going on, and Comcast for us has been invaluable. It's absolutely brilliant. We would be devastated at Meeting Place if all our care clients could not avail themselves of this brilliant free service. Our programs may not always be great or well shot or well edited, but it's given us a whole new lease of life, and NEK TV with Todd Pronto and Terry DeFazio could not have been more helpful to us. They've been patient. We've actually sent seriously brain damaged patients up to the NEK TV studios where Terry has taught them sound and audio, and Todd has gently taken them through how to record, how to use the Zoom, and just use the camera. it's invaluable. We couldn't do without it. So I really fully support the renewal of this license in 2016 because it would be a huge loss to the disabled and mentally handicapped sector of the community. And they are the unspoken. They don't have much of a voice here tonight, so I'm speaking for them. Thank you, members of the board.
Thank you. I'd like to hear from the next person from Newport.
Hi, my name's Steve Merrill. I live in North Troy, and I've been a community producer with NEK-TV since about 2007. And I want to thank the good folks at Vermont Interactive TV here because, you know, without them, I know there's talk about budget cuts for these good people. And I think without them, we wouldn't be able to even have this kind of a meeting if we had to rely on commercial TV like Skype or any of those systems. So thanks to the VIT people. Regarding build out, it's important that we build out into the rural areas, obviously, and perhaps we could see if we could get USDA grant money or something to help Comcast do a build out, maybe fiber to the towns and then coax from the town, from the hubs to the people, similar to FDR's rural electrification program, because information in this day and age is just as important as electrification was in FDR's time in the 1930s, provided that the build out has confirmable standards and measurable benchmarks to hook up more people, so that we can cover local meetings and we cover the local meetings and where we have we jokingly call it relativity, where we delve into local government and find out whose relatives are working for whom and whatnot, and ask a lot of other embarrassing questions that don't seem to get covered by the typical press, the print press, or the other local media. And I think that what with the speed of fiber and coax and the durability of it, it's putting wireless to shame. I don't think that there's that much that there's as much future in wireless for local programming as there is with cable, especially when like I do, I use Comcast for internet specifically due to its speed. And over at NEK-TV, we've got, like this young lady was saying, there's people there to help the public and you know, bring them in and from start to finish. And I'd like to see their CPG be extended, obviously, you know, provided you know that there may be conditions that they have these benchmarks and that they would be able to adhere to them to get more cable into rural areas. It's just that important from where we stand. And we've covered everything in our area, from local meetings, solid waste district meetings, the stuff, some of the stuff at Jay Peak, the sewage treatment plant hearings, and just anything and everything. And if Comcast can't afford to do these build-outs by themselves, perhaps we could maybe ask Senator Leahy and try and get some USDA money to help with the build-out. It's just that important. It really is. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next, I'd like to go to Randolph Center, where I believe we have one person who wishes to speak.
Yes, thank you. My name is Jessamyn West. That's Jessamyn. Last name is W-E-S-T. I teach at Vermont Technical College. I'm a basic technology educator at Randolph Technical Career Center, which is a vocational high school. And I'm also a local justice of the peace, and I work during the elections. I agree with some of the previous commenters that I think Comcast CPG renewal should be contingent on plans that are meaningful and not just aspirational. I think we've seen lots of aspiration, and, that's good news. But what we're looking for is sort of deliverables. My three concerns are dealing with the digital divide. Every day I teach people how to use the internet and how to use email, people who have never interacted with technology before. I would like to see Comcast being more committed to not just closing the digital divide in a technology way, though it would be nice if everybody in Randolph had access to the internet, but also dealing with issues like the usability divide and the empowerment divide. We're seeing people in our communities who don't feel that the internet is for them, who don't feel that there are things that they need to do with it, and we're seeing that they're not getting information and assistance from their service providers, from Comcast, in order to be able to use that. I had a negative anecdote of a woman who came to a drop-in session, and she was trying to get her Netflix working, and she had called Comcast, and Comcast said, well, Netflix isn't our thing. Just go to Google and Google Netflix repair, which I know is a bad idea as a technology educator, but she did not. And she relied on Comcast to give her good information. And she wound up going down a rabbit hole of sort of bad advice. And I would like to see them committed to dealing with our digitally divided patrons and customers in ways that actually help empower people to use the tools that they deliver and not just be sort of a fire hose of content. The second issue I would like to see is real broadband for everyone. As we know in Vermont, I heard somebody mention the rural electrification program, and people may or may not know the last town that got electricity in Vermont was Victory in 1962, which I think makes a lot of us shake our heads because it was within living memory for many people. I think we're going to be seeing that with the last people getting broadband, and I would like to see Comcast being more affirmative about trying to get those last people together, whether they need to be incented with lower prices, whether they need to be incented with better technology, whether they need to be incented for ease of use. That would be helpful. And the third thing, as a justice of the peace, I work at the elections every election year, and we count the votes and we put the votes to bed and we get everything all settled up. And what we don't get is we don't really have a method of getting that information out to our community members. Many people read the election results in the newspaper. And as much as ORCA, I think, is terrific, and I have nothing but good things to say about VCAM and ORCA, we would like to see more tools that would empower our community with sort of the G in PEG programming so that we could have more government information available to more people, both through the programming guides, in HD, listed and predictable so that people can actually consume public, government, and educational information the same way that they consume the rest of their content, in HD, quickly and conveniently. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next, I'd like to go to Rutland, where I understand we have two people who wish to speak.
Yes, hi, I'm Tom Donahue. During the day, I'm the director of the Rutland Region Chamber of Commerce, and I'm also speaking tonight as a resident of Rutland City. First, I'd like to echo the sentiments of the gentleman from Newport for thanking the board for holding this on VIT. This is very conveniently located and provides us convenient access so that we can speak with you and on important topics like tonight. And the weather's pretty nice out tonight, but it's not always, and sometimes these things can be in snowstorms that make it difficult even to get to hearings, and VIT makes it possible. So thank you for holding it on VIT, first and foremost. Secondly, I want to mention the Comcast offices here, and I just want to say a couple of positive words about the staff that's here on North Main Street in Rutland. A lot of times I will call, I'm a Comcast subscriber. We have the triple play, so we do get our internet, telephone, and cable service through Comcast. I've had very good experience with them, and while I've occasionally called on the telephone, A lot of times I'll go right into the office, and I want you to be aware that the staff at the office here is very good, and I always leave actually more than satisfied, which is surprising. I go in maybe with an issue or problem or question, desiring to get that rectified, and end up surprisingly exceeding my expectations. So I think that's to their credit, and I want to make sure that I recognize them for that tonight at Comcast, because that is a tremendous experience in a time when customer service is paramount for any business and public service, I think. And then thirdly, and most important tonight, I'm here to talk about our community access television and how important that is, and how much we appreciate that Comcast facilitates that happening here through public education and government television, affectionately known here as PEG TV. And I have to say, I think we have all due respect to the PEG TV stations around the state, and there's a number of them watching tonight probably, but ours has got to be one of the best, if not the best, in Vermont. And we're very, very fortunate to have this level of service here. The staff is tremendous. One of the things they do well is truly public outreach. So they truly try to make it a community-based public education and government television station. They do a tremendous amount of outreach to get the public to come in and do the programming. And the access is just easy, and I think the technology is some of the best, if not the best. Having said that, also the programming that they do, both for public, for education, and for government, is also, I think, somewhat unprecedented and exceeds expectations here. So we're very fortunate that we have access to this kind of information and fun, because there's a lot of programming on there that is just entertaining and really becomes a part of the fabric of the community. This is something that's beyond my imagination when I was growing up without it, and you didn't have this kind of access to this kind of level of information, or just sporting events or community events that are happening around. But now you have access to so much of it that it's quite incredible. And we're very, very appreciative of both Comcast and PEG TV providing that to us. And lastly, I'd say just in an era where transparency in government has become so significant, that I think this is the kind of transparency that it begins to provide into our local governments that is critical and very, very important. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'd like to hear from the next person from Rutland.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Senator Kevin Mullen from Rutland. And I'd like to begin by thanking you for taking this time tonight to hear from concerns from around the state. And it's interesting to hear some of the complaints that I've heard so far from other areas of the state, because I can tell you as a public servant, we are a funnel for complaints, and I get very few complaints about Comcast. If there are any complaints whatsoever, it's about the price of the service. And of course, we're here tonight to ask you to make sure that they do as much as possible for us to continue with the public service programming and everything else. So as we say in economics, Tanstaffel's law, there ain't no such thing as a free lunch. We have to understand that if we want all these good things, that we're going to have to pay for them. So I'm here tonight to support the Certificate of Public Good. And I would say that having served in public service for over 30 years, we have a problem that we're facing in Vermont as far as protecting our democracy. And that is that we don't have the type of local news coverage that we used to have. When I first served on the Board of Aldermen many, many years ago with the previous speaker, Tom Donahue, we had local radio stations and local press that were covering every single local meeting. We no longer have that today. Newspapers are struggling to survive in very trying times. So really the only really good, hard, factual news that people are getting is from the local public access television programs. And I can tell you that in Rutland, we are really blessed to have an incredible set of people working for PEG TV, led by Tom Leopold and formerly by Mike Valentine. And they do an outstanding job of making sure that all the local school board meetings, local selectmen meetings, local sporting events for young children are covered on those channels. And I can tell you that people do watch these shows, because I talk to people on the streets all the time that said, you know, we heard at the Proctor Select Board meeting such and such, and it's just amazing to me how many people will watch the local access channels. So I'm hopeful that their certificate of public good is extended. I can tell you that I am a Comcast customer. I have the triple play. That allows me to run my businesses, which are not local here to Rutland, out of the basement of my house. Without that ability, it would take me much more time on the road and everything else. So I'm very grateful for the service that I have. And on this anniversary of Back to the Future, I just want to tell you a short story, Mr. Chairman. I know the time is limited, but recently we had the birth of our second grandchild. And one of the new services that we have now at Comcast in Rutland is that if you have the triple play, if someone calls you, the phone number shows up on the bottom of your television screen. And we were at the hospital for the birth of my second grandchild. My wife went to call her elderly father, and he was watching the Channel 3 news, and he said, "Cynthia, oh my God, you gotta hold on a second. They're putting Kevin's phone number on the bottom of the screen, and they want people to call him for some reason." So it's just amazing what technology is today. And again, I just want to say that I fully support the certificate of public good. That at least here in Rutland, I can tell you that we're getting outstanding service, and that we're very fortunate to have what we have. So thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator. Appreciate your coming out tonight. I'd like to go to Springfield and hear from two people from there.
Yes, good evening. I'm Marita Johnson, and our public access station, Springfield Area Public Access TV, SAPA TV, serves Springfield, Wethersfield, and Chester. And our community members really appreciate the local educational programs that we are able to provide. I'm a volunteer independent producer, and I produce 30 to 40 educational programs a year. And I'm just one of the independent producers. And our community organizations really appreciate having this local programming, and we're well known for servicing the community. Some of the groups that I'm involved in providing programs are the Springfield Garden Club, the Springfield Art and Historical Society, the Wethersfield Historical Society, the American Precision Museum in Windsor. I was able to cover the wonderful collection of Howard Coffin's Civil War collection. And then I was able and he spoke about his collection, and I was able to share that statewide through the VMX, the Video Media Exchange. And also I do walks with the Crown Point Road Historical Association, and we're able to share that statewide and all the history that goes along with that. I also create travel logs of my own travels, such as Mont Saint Michel and the D-Day beaches of Normandy. One of the really important things that I cover is the Osher Lifelong Learning Institute series of lecture programs, and that's associated with the University of Vermont. There are 9 sites throughout the state, and I'm the facilitator here in Springfield. It's for seniors who are 50 years and older who enjoy learning just for the fun of it. And our speakers graciously allow us to videotape them and share them with the community, and those we are able to share statewide as well. Our director of and it's OLLI, it's called OLLI, Osher Lifelong Learning Institute. Our director of OLLI of the University of Vermont is Kathy Cody Hudson. She wasn't able to be here this evening, but she did write a letter of support, and I'd like to just read a little bit of that. OLLI in Springfield has utilized SAPA TV's resources in getting the word out about our educational lectures and programs. Our Springfield OLLI membership has increased over the years because of the wide exposure we have had by sharing the OLLI programs on the local TV station. Additionally, the use of the public access TV has helped with the broader mission of providing educational programming for our senior citizens throughout Vermont. Several of our OLLI sites throughout the state work with their respective public access stations to air their weekly educational lectures, allowing us to reach many more senior Vermonters in their homes. Having a strong and vital public access station such as SAPA TV in the area allows community members to stay informed about their local issues and enjoy quality educational programming. And that's from Kathy Cody Hudson, the director of OLLI at the University of Vermont. And I would like to say that our communities certainly do enjoy all of the educational programming that we're able to provide through our public access SAPA TV and sharing them statewide.
Thank you. I'd like to hear from the other person in Springfield.
My name is Bruce Johnson. I'm an independent producer, volunteer independent producer, and for SAPA TV. Since 2005, I've worked with a high school class in producing a live television program of school news every Friday morning. Students create their product. We then utilize the SAPA TV studios, which happen to be in the public high school, and they produce a program that goes out live to the community. In regards to one of the things, everything that we do in the student classroom is done in HD video. When we go into the studio at SAPA, it's all HD as well. And then it's converted into a little box and sent out as an analog signal to Comcast, where it's then retranslated back to something else, which then goes out to the digital network. It just seems that I've been doing this now for nearly 10 years, and it seems as though technology has changed greatly, and yet we're sort of flying a Curtis Jenny, if you will, with baling wire and chewing gum holding it together. With this new public certificate of public good, I hope the board will look carefully towards the future, because you're looking at 11 years. That's more than a decade. The technological changes that I've seen in the business in the last 10 years have been unbelievable. If this continues to fly along as that bankrupt, if you will, Curtis Jenny, we really have problems going to the future. You know, this is the anniversary, the 25th anniversary of that movie, speaking of the future, and we seem to be looking towards the past. I know the chair seems to be amused at what I'm saying.
No, I thought the Back to the Future reference was amusing. Thank you.
It just seems that our program has sent young people to schools throughout the country, some following careers in the media field, but we need to look forward to the future. Many areas of the Springfield community are without service from Comcast. And as a result, people can't see the broadcasts of our program and all of the other programs that are produced for the community. And people are upset. I had a woman speak to me the other evening about the fact, as someone mentioned earlier at one of the other sites, that the base package grows smaller, the price grows higher, and she's very, very frustrated that she now has lost another news station off that small fee. Looking forward, I think it's important that Comcast be forced into a position where they have to have a plan for the future to bring those services to the people of our community and of the state. I think that pretty much sums up my points of view. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your comments. Next, I'd like to go to White River Junction, where I think we have a couple of people who would like to speak.
Linda Carbino, go ahead. Hi, my name is Linda Carbino, sorry. Carbino, sorry. It is spelled different. The last name is spelled Carbino. And I wanted to speak a little bit about a couple of things. First of all, I am a local producer here in White River Junction. I have been producing my show Walking Through Life for 10 years. And my show actually started as a way for me to tell my story of long-term recovery from addiction and mental illness. And it's grown from that, of course. It's just exploded over 10 years with the help with the CATV staff. And another thing I'd like to say about the two is I was somebody that only had an 8th grade education and was told that I could never learn to read or write, proving that wrong. And I want to say that the CATV staff has given me a lot of support, has taught me quality, how to be a videographer, how to edit, how to produce my show. And doing this, it has made my progress through recovery just awesome. I mean, I just feel like a whole person again. And it was really hard for me. And into just celebrating 600 Walking Through Life shows in 10 years, I was really, really honored when CATV had nominated me for a national award for the best impact show through community access. And I got the call that I had won, and I was just so honored. And I love Community Access TV and all that it stands for, and thanks for Comcast for doing that. And I just want to encourage everybody else that this is something that you can do in the public. And the way do we get the word out to the public? How do we let them know that this is available to you? And one of the concerns is we don't have the interactive guide. If people knew when, say, Walking Through Life's on, if that's one of their favorite shows, then they're more apt to tune in. Or if they know when the government meeting's going to be on, and or whatever the education programs are, because that's one of the things that's great about CAT TV is that it focuses on a little bit of everything, And I really want to point out the education part because, yes, I'm an adult. Yes, I'm 55 years old, but I learned. Even when somebody told me that I could not learn, and I did it. And one of the other things, too, is that I know we were speaking about another channel with Rule 8, and I think that would be great to have that second channel to, actually have more content. I mean, I think there could be a lot of content on a third channel. And I just wanted to make sure that I made my voice heard about that. And also, the internet, I think, is a great access for people that can't get out and go to meetings, can't go to the government meetings. And I've heard from a lot of people they do watch the government meetings on CATV. And the quality is good, but like I said, HD is better. That's what I truly think. But anyway, I want to thank you guys for taking the time to listen to me and my story and the love that I have for CAT TV.
Thank you. Is there someone else in White River who would like to speak?
My name's David Taft, and I'm a lifelong resident of Windsor, and I'm also an independent producer for Windsor On Air. I want to echo everybody here seems to be commending and supporting the PEG stations and the situation that Comcast helps to finance and provide. Windsor has an enormous percentage of elderly people in their community, and due to physical and other limitations, they often can't get out and participate the way they wish they could. So it gives them the ability to see the local government programs, the recreational programs, the things that they really would love to go, but due to their circumstances, they're not able to. But I'd like to say that but with working with Windsor On Air as an independent producer and stuff, I also know that we're a very small station, and the Comcast might provide some funding, but in a small station like Windsor, by the time you have a very, very limited paid staff, or we actually have only one person, and by the time you take the revenue that you get, it's very difficult to do all these things that a lot of you are talking about with the advanced technology and high definition. And we're lucky that if we can get the word out and quality enough so people can hear the audible, sometimes. So maybe some of the bigger stations have the luxury of doing all this stuff, but Windsor has a hard time of just our person does a quality job. It's excellent, and we're blessed to have her. But the backbone of our PEG station is the volunteers and as this woman said, we have to do a better job of getting the word out that if you have something a message or a story or something, that this resource is available and it's for everybody. But it's very difficult. A lot of the people are technically challenged, and I can tell you that from personal experience. So I think that it's a great service. Without the PEG station on my Comcast TV, I would quite honestly be a different subscriber to a different network. And one of the reasons I say that is I agree with the woman that says they are always changing and offering you a little bit less, but the bill isn't going down. It's going up a little bit. And I wish there was a way that you could personalize what you get on your television so that I only want to watch 10 channels, but the 10 that I want to watch, to get those 10 is on a package of 200 channels, and I don't think that it's proper to have to pay for 200 channels if I only watch in 10. But they don't have the flexibility to really pick out what an individual wants. They give you these options where you kind of have to take a lot more to get the little bit that you really use regularly. And the last thing I'd like to add is, well, I get a lot of feedback from the elderly because in my public access show, they admire and respect people that are out there trying to get the message out. But I also have a lot of people in my community that come up and say they would like to get the Comcast, and I've heard talk about there is a mechanism of how that's supposed to happen, but I know personally people that have been waiting for years hoping to be able to hook on to Comcast, but due to whatever reason, they're not able to. So I understand it's probably a financial thing, but I think that more effort should be given to people that would like to get on board to have the ability to do so. But I would hate to see the PEG stations go away, because I agree with, I haven't heard anybody here say anything negative about the ability to get the local shows and government, the schools, everything. It's the best tool to promote small community that is available right now. So thank you for having the meeting. I appreciate listening. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, I'd like to go to Williston, where we have 15 people who wish to speak. I'd like to take the first two.
Hello, my name is Marie Thomas. I'm the executive director of Our Community Cares Camp, which is a small nonprofit corporation serving eastern Chittenden County. We're a summer food service program and enrichment camp for children. We deal with issues of food insecurity and achievement gaps, opportunity gaps with children. I'd like to speak quickly to the value of PEG access to nonprofits, and our local station is Mount Mansfield Community Television. It really enhances our ability to get our message out to targeted audience. And since I only serve 5 towns, I need to get that message out to 5 towns. It took me 7 years to get one of the Burlington channels to cover our program. But 3 or 4 times a year, I'm able to produce a public service announcement at my local PEG station, and people do watch it. The access to the media is really invaluable. I don't have a media budget. So being able to go to the PEG access station and record something or to use their equipment as part of my program, it just really enhances the experience for everyone. To the citizen, it's an unparalleled, unfiltered access to government meetings, school meetings. There's a value to seniors and shut-ins, and also to parents with children who can't go to meetings. I figure if you wanted to stay fully informed as to what was happening in your community, you'd have to go to 15 or 20 meetings a month, between school meetings, select board meetings, planning commissions, conservation commissions, whatever else. And, nobody's going to be able to do that. But I've seen the local PEG access channel as, since it's a small market, it's not very well funded, but they've done an incredible job of making these things available to people, and it's changed the way people interact with their government. There's a lot more participation, there's a lot more voting, so it's very, very important. And especially now, since we've been hit with some little crime sprees, having the monthly police reports is very valuable to everybody to know what's been happening and what our police force is doing to address crime. But PEG should not be treated as a redheaded stepchild. It seems like PEG stations are funded, sort of because they have to, not because they want to, not because they really want to address the public good, not because they want to make this accessible. Because if they would, they would fund them adequately. They would figure out what you need to have a basic station, and they would help it. And PEG, I haven't seen a PEG access station that's extravagant at all. In fact, in our PEG access, I think one of the staff's mothers made the curtains for the studio. I mean, it was just very frugal, and they reuse things, and they're just very cost conscious. But they also need to be broadcast in HD. Why should they have lower quality? In years past, it was when you hit the PEG station, the volume went down, so you had to make adjustments. So they just make it difficult for people to watch it, for people to access that. And, access to government is very important. And also, why can't they be listed in the program guide? I mean, again, that's an access issue. It's almost like there's a conspiracy to keep people from knowing what's happening in their government. And heaven knows the Burlington Free Press doesn't cover anything out in our towns unless there's a scandal. And we can't provide that many scandals, but, or something that's controversial. But despite all of these hardships and these challenges, PEG access has really changed the way locals get their news about their communities. People have to work hard to find out when meetings are. I think there's a little network that somebody watches it one day and they say, oh, you got to watch this meeting, you got to watch it at this time, and then people sort of figure it out. But why should people have to work that hard? When they're paying for a service, they're paying for Comcast. This should be part of the service, and it shouldn't be. So I think if you renew the certificate of public good, you need to condition it so that these things are taken care of. You need to allow for a change in technology. You need to have a way for the PEG to address, PEG stations to address grievances. So if things aren't being done the way it's supposed to, if upgrades aren't coming at the speed that they need to come, that they have a way of going to the Public Service Board and saying, we were supposed to get this service 3 years ago and we still don't have it. Some PEG budgets are too small for adequate coverage. They can only cover, they say, well, we can only cover 3 school meetings this month, but they don't always have the right information to know which 3 meetings are the most critical, especially in this time of school consolidation. It's really important for them to have more ability, and not everybody can depend on volunteer producers to do that. Comcast is a profitable company, and they should show their commitment to local communities by offering to embrace PEG access and not just treat them like second-class citizens. The focus group last week, we talked about the ghettoization of public access, and that's what's happening. And it's sort of like off in the back corner where it's hard to find out what's happening and when it's happening. You really have to work at it. People are doing that. They are making that commitment, but I don't know why they should have to work that hard, especially when Comcast is using our public right-of-ways. It should be part of the cost of doing business, and they should do it. They should do it joyfully, frankly, because they're making a lot of money from people. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Who else would like to speak in Williston?
Yes, hi, my name is Gregory Eplerwood from Burlington, and because I want to get my comments in under 3.5 minutes, I'm going to speak rather rapidly, but I want to assure the court reporter that everything is written down, and I will give her the copy afterwards. I'm here representing myself as a professional consultant supporting community media for the public good. I started in 1979 academically and as a volunteer, and then professionally beginning in 1989, contracted by the Vermont Department of Public Service. Since then, I've worked in the field of PEG access as a manager and consultant doing community needs assessments and other things to help AMOs negotiate their PEG access agreements with cable operators. With respect to full disclosure, I'm currently contracted by the Vermont Access Network, or VAN, to provide a half day a week of member support services such as maintaining the website, responding to inquiries, editing a newsletter, and the like. I'm prohibited from contacting cable operators and conducting any advocacy on behalf of the organization. I'm here solely as a concerned, albeit a pretty well-informed individual, and my views and opinions are my own and don't necessarily reflect those of VAN. While I have many professional viewpoints regarding community media and specifically Comcast's PEG access obligations, I'll confine my remarks to 2 areas: the significance of PEG access to Vermont and the importance of finding a way to sustainably maintain into the future PEG access's hyperlocal form of media creation and delivery. Surveys conducted by Comcast, the department, myself, and other third parties have consistently indicated an extraordinarily high level of recognition and regard of PEG access by people and organizations in all parts of the state. One telling piece of data is that in 2014, Vermont's 25 PEG access AMOs, 22 of which are in Comcast systems, together broadcast almost 17,000 unique local original video programs. That's over 20,000 hours of community programming, and considering there are fewer than 9,000 hours in a year, you can grasp the scope of our PEG access. Schools, libraries, municipal governments, nonprofit corporations, churches, clubs, seniors, youth, and individuals from all walks of life have come to regard our PEG AMOs as anchor institutions and depend on their video services, much like they depend on their broadband connections to deliver their email and website messages. Speaking of broadband, at one time, before broadband and cell service came to Vermont, cable TV was the killer app of citizen telecommunications, and the state's interest was to support PEG access as the non-commercial public benefit to balance the cable operator's commercial use of its public rights-of-way. And to do this, the board used federal law to leverage cable operators to extend their wires into as many towns as possible and also require them to support independent PEG access operations financially and in other in-kind ways. But by the time Comcast acquired Adelphia Cable, broadband and cell service was becoming the new killer app, and attention was redirected at ways in which these newest technologies could be deployed. Even though broadband is carried over the same wires and over the same rights of way as cable TV, the state, under federal law, couldn't regulate broadband, and so it became up to Comcast alone to decide whether or not to extend its lines. So my question is, has Comcast been proactive in expanding its cable TV and broadband services to more households than it served in 2005? That year, Comcast was granted permission to serve about 180 municipalities, but today it only serves about 120. And in those 120, has it voluntarily extended its commercial services? I'll let others fully answer that question. If Comcast were to extend its lines significantly over the next 11 years, that would achieve three things. One, it would help the state of Vermont reach its telecommunications goals. Two, it would extend the delivery of public benefits by our PEG access AMOs into unserved areas with the additional cable TV revenues. And three, the company would gain respect as a concerned partner in improving the economic and social quality of life of all Vermonters. In closing, Comcast, as the largest telecommunication corporation in the world, should have the socially responsible bandwidth to make certain that in those areas where it sells its services and PEG access is thriving, community media remain healthy and able to meet the non-commercial communication needs of the public sector. It would be smart business in a smart state. Thank you very much, Public Service Board, Chairman Bowles, and the other members of the board for allowing me to present my views and opinions in this most important docket.
Thank you. Next, I'd like to go to St. Albans, where we have three people who would like to speak. I'd like to hear from the first two.
Good evening, Mr. Chair and members of the board. I'm State Representative Brian Savage of the Franklin 4 House District, representing the town of Swanton and Sheldon. I'm also the moderator for the town of Swanton and the town of Swanton Town School District. This evening, I'd like to address the relicensing of Comcast and their service as it relates to Northwest Access Television. For many years, Northwest Access Television has broadcast the Swanton Town Informational Meeting live from the Swanton Municipal Complex in anticipation of town meeting. The town of Swanton and the town of Swanton School District adopted the Australian ballot town meeting format years ago. Until the summer of 2014, Northwest Access TV was able to broadcast live on Channel 15 and 16 simultaneously. After a partial upgrade by Comcast during that summer, Northwest Public Access TV lost the ability to be live on more than one channel from their remote sites. Because of this, the towns of Swanton and the town of Swanton School District informational meetings cannot be broadcast live because it conflicts with the regular St. Albans town meetings. This is a loss to the community of Swanton because, one, the residents are unable to come out in the evening who are not able to tune in and watch the meetings from the comfort of their homes. In past meetings, phone lines have been set up to allow residents to call in a question to their local select board and school board members. This will no longer be available to them. And lastly, in the event the candidates for elected offices are at the meeting, they are asked to speak for a few moments and take questions from the audience. Without a live broadcast, again, the voters watching from home are not able to call in and ask candidates questions. I respectfully request that any decision by your board include an order to Comcast to do the necessary upgrades to allow the return of 2 simultaneously broadcasts on each channel. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to hear from the next person from St. Albans.
Yes, good evening. My name is Representative Mariana Gamache, and I represent District Franklin 4, the towns of Sheldon and Swanton. First, I'd like to state that I commend Public Access TV for providing a very valuable community programming and services. My comments reflect the current state of TV communication and how it could be improved to better serve the public. We are in a time that demands government transparency. Towns across Vermont have come to expect their local select board and school board meetings to be recorded and shared with the public, but they do not yet receive the same level of transparency from the Vermont State House. We are in the information age, and the Vermont government needs to ensure that our citizens receive unbiased information on the creation of the laws that affect their daily lives. Many constituents are unable to attend important proceedings because of the distance to Montpelier and weather conditions of the legislative session. Beyond the legislative session, this statewide channel could be utilized for cultural events of interest to the entire state. With the loss of Vermont Interactive Television at the end of 2015, the Public Service Board should ensure that other avenues for connecting Vermonters across the state be investigated for their feasibility. Comcast's existing network that runs along roadways and public lands in nearly every corner of our state is an excellent candidate for serving these statewide connection needs. I also believe that the public guide listings should be required for Access TV in order to inform the public as to content and time on the public access channels. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you. Now I'd like to go to Bennington and hear from the next 2 people there.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. I'm Berta McGinnis, Executive Director of Manchester and the Mountains Regional Chamber of Commerce, which represents 18 towns and communities here in southwestern Vermont. We are very fortunate to be served by GNAT TV, which continually, against all odds, and I'll come back to that, presents wonderful programming throughout our community. I look at this from a chamber perspective as the communication thread which unites our entire community, our businesses, our nonprofits, our schools, our town governments, our school boards. All of these people are reliant on the facilities of GNAT TV and the staffing that is excellent there. I think that in today's world, we're all living in the digital age. Whatever business you're in, you are continually upgrading your technologies. And what hasn't happened in the GNAT TV and other access areas is that people are using outdated equipment, which is unfortunate because I think we're also educating our young people, and that's a very key issue in our community. The programming that's being done with our students and showcasing the broadcast media and public TV to these young people is just tremendously important. And I think to upgrade the systems to really be where they should be and not be in the Back to the Future original area would be a tremendous help. To have live origination at certain sites, at remote sites. We're currently doing almost all of our school boards and our town meetings certainly, and our select boards, which brings the message of what's going on in the community to the broad audience and helps them make informed decisions. So again, I think they're doing a tremendous job, but I think they're handicapped by not having the technology that they need to do a better job for all of us and for our community. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'd like to hear from the next person in Bennington.
My name is Stephen Schlussel, Schlussel. For the record, I'm an independent video producer in the Manchester, Vermont area with a concentration mostly on the arts, sustainable agriculture, charitable institutions. I'll be brief by saying that continuity of funding toward our local cable station is of high on my list. That, to reiterate, the quality of the programming, which gets dumbed down from my HD work to standard definition, is a problem. You've heard it again and again. And once again, the online interactive guide is, the lack of it is a problem. And it's just another vote going that way on those three things. Thank you.
Thank you. Now I'd like to go to Brattleboro.
I'm Bill Statz, and I'm a local producer and a Comcast customer. And my main concern is we do a lot of work with children, a lot of educational programs. We have a lot of kids from the high school come in, and they work in high quality, high def equipment, and then it's turned out in substandard broadcasting, and we're doing a great disservice, I think, to the customers and to the people that are doing this, that are producing these programs by doing it this way. And thank you.
Thank you. Is there another person in Brattleboro who wishes to speak?
Yes, thank you. My name is Jennifer Latham. I'm a Brattleboro resident and a Comcast customer, and BCTV is my local community television station. For my work, I am actually an Emmy Award-winning producer, and I've been very lucky to have programs that got distribution on HBO, Showtime, and PBS. But I'm really here to give some comments in regard to the impacts and improvements that are needed on behalf of community television service here in the state. Community television is an essential to an open society and free press. With more and more media consolidation, it is impossible for some producers to find anywhere to air their shows. So this is a really, really important place to keep going. So I want to just really reiterate what everybody else has been saying. It's sometimes the only place that some voices can be heard. But there's still a lot of work to be done to improve the service. I don't want to sound like a broken record because I think I have the same complaints when I go to the television, and I think I'm in a position to talk about some of these issues. But it really boils down to that community television is not on an equal footing. It's not on equity with the other stations in the channel guide. It's just not. You see these things, and then you see local, and you see it downgraded to standard definition. I mean, this HD issue is just crazy. I haven't worked in standard definition since 2004. Like, this is so, like what that gentleman said early in the program, is that standard, like, if we don't move to HD now, in 10 years, I don't even know. Most shows are now being shot in 4K, which may not mean much to you, but HD is old now. And the fact that Comcast is taking high definition, downgrading it, and then sticking it on the thing, it's like, why spend the money to do that step? This is something that mystifies me, and it shouldn't be happening. If I'm producing in high definition, I want to see my work. It also affects the viewer experience. Everybody's looking at so much media now. If you look at it and it looks terrible, you're going to keep moving. So it changes what people choose to watch. The other issue is the channel guide. How do you know what you're watching when it just says local? And if you don't have good internet service or you're not as familiar with a computer, you have to go to the computer, you have to figure out when the show is airing, and then you can't record it. So these basic features are really important so that community television is on equity with all other service providers, because the media that they produce is more or as important as what's on other channels provided by Comcast. And it's much, I would say it's almost more important to this community in particular. So please give them equity in presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, I'd like to go to Middlebury and hear from the next two people there.
When you can. Hi there. You hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. I hope we'll be able to see you soon.
Other one. You might regret that.
All right, now we can see you. Go ahead.
Excellent, excellent. The full package. So my name is Chris Mason, and I am a police officer in Middlebury. I work for the Middlebury Police Department. And my local channel is Middlebury Community Television. And I've hosted a show for, it's in its 4th season now. It's called Middlebury 5-0, and it's an interview show. It's a talk show. And I don't know how many shows I've done at this point. It's definitely more than 100. Very wide range, broad spectrum of people that I've interviewed. So on one level, it serves as an informational show. So some of the interviews are with people who are representing organizations, businesses, institutions within the community. So it's a way to get the word out about those things. And it's played a role in the democratic process as well. So for select board races, candidates have appeared on the show and gotten their message out that way. So that's one part of it. But I think the more critical part is that it serves to connect people to the Middlebury Police Department. So it's very much aligned with the police department's mission of community policing, and it connects people within the community. And I'm a really firm believer that the more connected we are in community, the stronger the community is and the richer our lives are. So it's been an incredible privilege being able to do this, being able to put this show on, meet these people and have it broadcast locally. And it's been really inspiring as well. So I feel like it's good work. I feel like it's important work, and I really hope that we're able to continue it. Thank you.
Thank you. If we could hear from the next person in Middlebury.
Thank you. My name is Jason Mittell, Mittell, and I am here both as a citizen of Middlebury and a Comcast subscriber, and also something of an expert. I'm a professor of film and media studies at Middlebury College, and my expertise is in American television. And one point I wanted to mention, a number of my fellow citizens have thanked Comcast for providing PEG access in their various communities. And I think it's important to remember that Comcast provides the funding and channels for PEG access not because they want to. It's not an act of charity or community service. They do it because we make them do it. Because us citizens, through our representation through the Public Service Board, insist that this is part of the Certificate of Public Good. So it's not a matter of thanking Comcast for doing this out of their necessity, but rather us standing up for saying this is something that we need. And I do think that PEG access is something that we still need. One thing that people ask me when I talk about PEG access is, why does this matter in the age of YouTube, where anyone theoretically can post a video and share it with millions of people worldwide? And I think that that's a real big misconception. And there are two main things I want to focus on: the way in which Middlebury Community Television in my community, as well as the PEG channels you've heard from around the state, serve a function that YouTube does not. The first is that a PEG station is a community media center. It is a place where people gather to create media, to learn how to create media, and to share their ideas. And in Middlebury, we are very fortunate that our station, MCTV, is housed in our public library. And they have a great partnership with our public library to create media education programs for local kids and teenagers. And for me, as an educator, this is hugely important, that the students who go off to higher education have exposure to how to make media, how to watch media critically, how to think through how media functions in our society. And that's not something that YouTube can provide. That is something that the staff and the volunteers at PEG stations and our library can provide. And that's one of the huge functions of a PEG station beyond just making videos and sharing them. The second major function that I think is vital is that a PEG station is community-based distribution. Yes, anyone can create a video and put it online for everyone, but when you put a video onto your local PEG station, what you're doing is you're sharing it with your neighbors. You're sharing it with your fellow citizens. If you're a government official, you are sharing it with your constituents. If you're a police officer, like my friend Chris here, you are sharing it with the people who you protect and serve. And that is crucial. A PEG station is one of the vital ways in which a community talks to itself. And one of the great things about Vermont is our sense of community. We have small towns. We do not have major media, but we have a vibrant community media. And that's why I urge you, the Public Service Board, and our fellow citizens to keep insisting that Comcast provides, expands this vital service. Thank you.
Thank you. Now I'd like to hear from someone from, I think we've got somebody in Rutland who wishes to speak.
Hi. You all hear me?
Yes.
Okay. My name is Nan Hart. I actually direct 3 elder service programs in our community here in the Rutland area. I've had the pleasure of producing a show locally here for about 15 years on PEG TV. And what our show mainly focuses on is sharing information that nonprofit organizations in the region provide to our community members. And what we do on the show is not only provide them the opportunity to talk about what their organizations do and the services they provide, but it's an outlet for them to try and recruit volunteers. What I do is deploy volunteers in the community. Our organization does, I should say. And so it's a wonderful opportunity for these organizations to do outreach and build their own capacity by utilizing volunteers. And it's just one of those little subtle things that PEG TV provides in the community that a couple of people have touched on. And I don't want to reiterate everything everybody's gone over, so I'm not going to do that. But I do want to express my real support for the need for HD in our public access channels. I talk to people all the time, and having done a show for many years before we had the HD channels and now that we have the HD channels, the amount of people that see the shows now versus a decade ago is dramatically different. People have to really seek it out now because it isn't readily available. Because oftentimes people, we've all done it, just sit and channel surf. And one of the things you would do is stumble across the show on the public access channels and go, oh, this is really interesting. I'm going to watch this. So it's important because of the spontaneity sometimes of watching a show. And on the heels of that, I would say that that's why the guide is also equally important, because there are people that really do catch a show, seek out the particular schedule of a show, and want to know when it's going to be on. I think for PEG TV to continue to be the voice of the people of our region and really throughout the state, the accessibility needs to be intuitive, useful, and certainly a high quality. Especially technologically speaking. So I would certainly encourage the Public Service Board to renew the Certificate of Public Good. Thank you.
Thank you. Now I'd like to go to Montpelier, where we have 2 people to speak. Mr. Whitaker.
Good evening. My name is Stephen Whitaker. It's my understanding that the CPG will be renewed. The questions are all about what conditions and what PEG support and what service quality will be required of the company. In my informed opinion, Vermonters require reestablishing the tradition of 3 to 5% of the channels' capacity being made available to PEG. When there were 100 channels, 3 channels in a community was 3%. If there's 300 channels, 9 channels would be equivalent. You get the idea. We need the comparable 3 to 5%, not only on the local systems, but on the interconnect. Comcast has combined and eliminated head ends across Vermont, and those fiber interconnects have abundant capacity. There's a lot of dark fiber all over Vermont that's not being used. That channel capacity needs to be available to the PEG stations to share programming and create that statewide channel. We need access to all the features of the Comcast electronic program guide, and similar to the way a program guide from Comcast cascades out to TiVo and TiVo feeds it into a DVR in the home, that same functionality should accrue to the public access channels, be they 3 or 9, so that someone can set their DVR up to record what they're interested in and see it coming a week ahead of time. We need open access. That's a goal in 202C, has been for years, and has yet to be defined or implemented in board orders. We need open access to the dark fiber, not only Comcast's, but the other utilities as well. Access to the conduits for underground service entrance. If a competitor needs to pull a fiber connection into a building and there's already a conduit there, we need open access to the conduit with legitimate safety protections, etc. We might need to explore the rights to overlash community fiber, such as EC fiber, on Comcast strand. I noticed that when I got the permits that VTrans issues for the building of the fiber, there's a condition in there that the state has the right to overlash onto those strands at no cost. Now, I don't know what the structure of a government VTA type entity would build such fiber and utilize that feature, but that needs to be explored and or negotiated. We need full HD and ultra HD capacity. We can't play catch up and finally get HD after it's been on the market for years and then fight this battle again 11 years later for ultra HD. People are producing in ultra HD now, which is also referred to as 4K in the prior testimony. We need emergency backup power requirements for all coax amplifiers and optical electronics. Especially as more and more customers have let go of their 5-volt powered Fairpoint lines and relied on a voice over IP telephone service, those services go down. The cable amplifiers go down. We've lost the ability to even call emergency 911. There are many areas in Vermont yet to have cell service, and there's gaps, and with a power outage on the cable system combined with no cell service, you've got no way to call for help. We might explore as an interim measure that open access to the unused dark fiber, Fairpoint and others, to immediately be used to install microcells in those dead cell zones to provide emergency calling and fill the gaps. I believe there's an incremental step, but it cannot be argued that the FCC preempts Vermont regulating what is simply a piece of dark glass in the public right-of-way. That is not a piece of a cable television system. That is a piece of dark glass residing in the public right-of-way. We need to insist on network ring closure and survivability, geographically diverse circuits, not only for Comcast, but for all the carriers. These are fragility in the network that can't be tolerated in this day and age. A la carte channel selection, someone spoke to earlier, the ability to, we're in a unique position in a small state with a progressive board and intelligent user community to negotiate these things in a CPG. We need funding for PEG access from all users of the public right-of-way, not just Comcast. As more video service moves over onto broadband, onto Netflix, Hulu, etc., all the users of the public right-of-way should contribute to this important community media and civic participation agenda. Video conferencing and public hearings such as this. VIT is scheduled for going dark next month or in December. That should be an essential application on a PEG network. There's a logical synergy between VIT functions and public access AMO functions. This type of thing could be done and funded with that shared funding model that I described, all users of the right-of-way. This docket, as do others, require appointment of an independent public advocate. Act 56 required the department to conduct an assessment of its public advocacy. Last night was the first public hearing. They got a unanimous vote of no confidence in their public advocacy. And until that gets remedied, the board needs to consider appointing a public advocate even as a prophylactic measure, such that we don't discover that the board's inadequate representation is akin to having a devious crime lab investigator tech putting a whole bunch of past decisions at suspect. You understand the analogy there?
Yes.
Okay. When recent crime labs were found to be compromised by a deceitful operator, and in this case, a compromised Department of Public Service,
yes, now I get it. Yeah.
many of your decisions, even ones already made, have to be revisited. For instance, the focus group. The department doesn't know how to run a focus group. They didn't choose to invite Charlie to their focus group yesterday. Charlie's one of the most knowledgeable people in the state on this topic. Many of these issues were spoken to in the 10-year plan hearings on a public comment draft, yet none of them ended up in the final draft or in a subsequent draft, which was not a final draft. No hearings were held. There is legislation required I'd ask you to consider because the board's point of view is listened to and respected strongly in the legislature, and that is a 3 points. All just as contracts under 226A and IRPs, incentive regulation plans under 226B, must be found to be consistent with the 10-year plan. All certificates of public good should be required to be found consistent with the 10-year plan. DPS should not be the agency adopting its own miserably deficient plan. That needs to be either a board function or a legislative function after a finding of completeness by the board. That's the only place the qualifications and the lack of conflict can occur. CPG should no longer be for an 11-year period. 6 is more reasonable in this stage of rapid technological evolution. 11 years is too long to issue a CPG with the ramifications that you're hearing about tonight. So we don't want a Comcast-run VIT network. It's much more of a function that should be managed, as is PEG managed by a community-based non-governmental organization. We need to define and establish, possibly in this docket, what open access means on the ground in Vermont and what net neutrality means on the ground in Vermont. We need to define the overlaps between the 1990s open network architecture docket and how that applies to cable and telephone service today. Comcast should be steered in the direction consistent with our goals of 30 VSA 202C. In lacking a plan, it's up to the board to interpret those goals and apply them into conditions on this certificate of public good. Currently, there's a goal of fiber to the premises in 9 years, and there's another goal of not to invest in soon-to-be obsolete or soon-to-be outmoded technology. It can be argued logically that continuing to do line extensions in copper does not make any sense because the massive depreciation of the entire Fairpoint, ILEC, and Comcast network, once there's a strand of glass to every home in Vermont, which is scheduled by 2024, needs to be evaluated in the context of this docket. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Schellenberger?
Hi. My name is Amy Schollenberger. That's Schollenberger. I live in Barre, Vermont. I am a Comcast customer at my business, although I can't get it in Barre. I'm here to ask you to ensure that the CPG requires continued and stronger support of PEG TV. For all the reasons that have already been mentioned, I won't get into any technical details for that. I'm a big fan of public access television. I think it's a vital community resource that helps people connect to their community and get information that helps them to be part of the community. Many people have mentioned participation in government programs, being able to know what's going on in the community and the government and the community, but it also helps people just to connect with other human beings in their community and to know what kind of place they live in. I myself have moved many times in my life, and when I had access to community access television, when I moved to a new place, I was able to get a sense of the place where I was moving to recognize people on the street because I saw them on TV and I knew what they looked like. I could tell who my local officials were. I think that's a really important service that community access brings. I've been to many of the local stations around the state. I've helped people to produce shows. I've been guests on various shows. And I think that it's really exciting to see some of the things that happen in those stations. Many have mentioned the volunteer spirit in the community that helps these stations go. And I think also one of the really good benefits of public access television is the variety of voices that you can hear by watching PEG TV. Even in the same show, sometimes you get a variety of different opinions and voices and different kinds of people, and I think that's really important also to build our community in the state. Another thing that I haven't heard mentioned yet is the archival services that public access TV stations provide, both I think on video and also more and more on the internet. I think that all the shows should be available on the internet to people, after they've aired. I also think that the internet is not enough. I think having these shows available on television for people who don't have access to the internet or prefer to watch on TV is very important. The educational services that these stations provide are also important. I've taken classes myself at PEG TV stations. I know others who have. And one of the things that I find very exciting about PEG TV stations and the classes and the programming that they do is that I have seen many times young people in the community connecting with community leaders, with artists, with just their neighbors, because they're coming into the station learning how to use the TV cameras, learning how to produce video. They're learning marketable skills, but at the same time they're meeting people in their community and also getting mentored by the people who work at the station. I think that one of the best things about PEG TV is that anyone can use it. It's available to everyone. I think some of the access issues have been mentioned, but I do think it is very accessible if people do know about it. As I said, I've visited many stations, and my overwhelming experience has been they're very welcoming environments, and they do support people who want to produce television shows. I do think one thing I would ask, if it's possible as part of the CPG, is that everyone should have access to the programming, even if they don't have a cable subscription. If, for instance, if they have only the internet subscription but not the cable subscription, because some of that programming is still vitally important, and if for some reason the person can't afford the basic package, I think they should still have a way to access the programming that's available on the local TV channel. Thank you for listening, and thanks for having the hearing.
Thank you. Next, I'd like to go to Williston, where I understand there are still 13 people who would like to speak. I'd like to hear from the next two.
Okay. Hi, this is Rick Polari, P-A-L-I-E-R-I, and I'm a producer over at VCAM, and I've been doing it since 2009. And the one thing that I can tell you is how this public access TV can change someone's life and give meaning to their lives. Gives you new skills that you didn't know that you had, and you can do things that you couldn't imagine. When my show started all those years ago, it started as an arts kind of thing where I was interviewing musicians. And it opened up an opportunity for local musicians and then later national and world musicians to have their voice heard. The show started out with a lot of people from Vermont, but then I was able to get people like Pete Seeger, Tom Paxton, people from Anthony DeCurtis from Rolling Stone magazine, people from all over the world to participate in the Songwriter's Notebook. In 2009, I was contacted by the Library of Congress, the American Folklife Center, and they wanted to create a collection of my show for our National Archive. So I think that it's important to understand that something can start out small, a local kind of community thing, and then grow to be a part of our history. Because the Library of Congress, we kind of look at things 100 years from now. There are already researchers going to my collection at the Library of Congress and watching these shows that we made in our VCAM studio and learning from them. And that will continue because they want more and more shows. But I can't express how important having this opportunity, that this, this kind of opportunity changes your life. For artists, people who have a dream, this is an important thing because you can go to the community station without any experience, and the skilled staff will train you to give you all the tools that you need. It's sort of almost like, creating jobs in the future, because they are training you with all of these skills that later you can apply to so many other things. And I just can't say enough about all the wonderful things that VCAM has done for me and for so many other producers out there. And I know that, when you look at, you're looking at the budget and saying, okay, so where's the money going and what's the purpose here? When you realize how many people you're touching, not only the producers, but you're touching the community and letting so many musicians have a voice today, that's hard to have a chance to be heard in a meaningful way. My program is not just a performance program, it's an interview program where people get to know about the performers. And a lot of times that really helps them start to build up their audience. They're so grateful to have that opportunity to have their voice heard. So I'd like to thank VCAM and RETN for giving people so many of the skills that will help them to create new possibilities in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. We hear from the next person in Williston.
Yes, I'm Tamara Higgins, and I'm going to continue talking about the arts and local access television. I'm co-president of Sundog Poetry Center, a nonprofit charitable organization that promotes poetry throughout the state. We just finished a 10-part statewide lecture series held in independent bookstores throughout the state, which was sponsored by the Vermont Humanities Council and recorded and aired by MMC TV and other local access stations. We could not have reached the audience we did without the excellent service of MMC TV and the other stations. We could have had, however, an even larger impact on the state had these shows been promoted by cable viewers. Additionally, these shows were only able to be in high definition due to two of the local access stations transmitting in HD through non-Comcast distribution. This coming year, we are involving students in all of the schools in Vermont, K through college, in a new poetry series that will be involving the state's leading poets. And it will be imperative that ROS, remote origination sites, are available for students to be involved in these cultural offerings. These will allow direct discourse with leading poets in the state. And so, in summary, visibility and programming, access for all viewers, including access in remote sites without the prohibitive heavy connection fees, and high-quality broadcasts are needed in our state, and we feel our local access stations are doing their part in providing those services. Thank you.
Thank you. Now I'd like to go to St. Albans and take what I think is the last person there who wishes to speak.
Hello? My name is Nancy Dubis. Hello? Hello?
Go ahead.
My name is Nancy Dobisky-Vasey, D-O-B-I-S-K-Y, hyphenated V-A-I-S-E-Y. I live here in St. Albans. Many years ago when Channel 15 first got going, I was a volunteer, and I'll date myself back when we had to programming recorded on VHS tapes, and we had to come in after hours and shift tapes so that we could continue our programming. I've seen the station grow over the years, and it's offered a lot. I mean, Vermont is a rural state, and there's a lot of lack of communication, and Channel 15 now and 16 have provided a lot of communication that people in the outlying areas can't get because either they can't get internet service or cable service, or even now problems too with cell phone. They're working on that. But I've heard different people say that, you know, they look so forward to the local programming because even the cable channels, you get a little bits of news, but, you know, they show a whole football game, a sports event, a concert, school events, select board meetings that people, you know, either can attend or are unable to, and it's made a big difference in the local area. And I really appreciate, you know, you're giving me this chance to talk. I don't want to say a whole lot more because a lot's been already said tonight, but I think it's very important that this continue, and I think that going on with the high def and further on and making more improvements, it would be a definite asset to the community. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Now I'd like to go to Bennington and hear from the people remaining there who would like to speak.
Stanley Williams. Good evening, Mr. Chairman. I'm a Comcast customer. I live in Shasbury, Vermont. And to that gentleman who said there's no such thing as a free lunch, well, he's right, but the lunches have been turned into expensive dinners because Comcast rates are like over the moon. They're extremely high. Every year they seem to increase their rates on everything from their packages to the rentals of their modems, their converters, and whatever. And originally, when you needed basic TV, you had to get an adapter, a digital adapter. So they gave everybody these free adapters. Then all of a sudden now, they decided, well, let's make some money on these adapters. So they started charging $1.99 a month for these adapters. And then, maybe next year, they said, we'll charge them $2.99 a month now for these adapters. So when's the bleeding going to stop? There's got to be a peak. They just keep doing whatever they want, charge people whatever they want. And the other thing is, with the channel selection, that other gentleman was right. Why should you pay for 400 channels when you watch 7 or 8? Why can't you pick your own channels and pay for just what you use? I mean, the cable bill is becoming a car payment. I mean, it's unbelievable. And furthermore, when you're trying to watch a movie, they throw these info commercials in on you. You know, they last 10 or 15 minutes. By the time you watch them, you forgot what you were watching. You know? That's the way I look at it. I mean, I don't remember what the heck the movie was. You know? And, you know, customer service is lousy. You call customer service up. Okay, yeah, don't worry about it. We'll try to fix it over the, you know, over the line. Call us back if it doesn't work. Okay, you call them back, and you get a different rep, and they got to explain the whole thing all over to them again. Then they'll tell you the same thing. Well, we'll shoot a thing through the TV, and that doesn't happen. So, you know, it's very frustrating. And I don't want to mention anything about, but, you know, I hear that the workers, you know, they get free cable and free internet. I work for a utility. I didn't get nothing off of my electric bill. I didn't get free electricity. I didn't get no bonuses. Give them a discount if you want, but don't give it to them free. Put that money back in the customers so they lower their customers' rates down. That's what I would do. And that's about it. I invented myself.
Okay, thank you. Is there
You're
anybody
welcome.
else there? Yes, go ahead.
Yes, Mary Morrissey, State Representative from Bennington, and I'm here tonight to enthusiastically support our local access channels from around the state, but especially here in Bennington, our CAT TV station. CAT TV has a long and proud history of providing a vast array of programming that benefits its viewers. program coverage consists of education, government, local and regional board meetings and forums, local and regional stories of interest, local church services for those who are unable to attend, sporting events, a calendar of notices of events in our region, and timely emergency information when needed. Our local access channels across the state are indeed a public good. It is a way for citizens to be further connected with their communities, even if they are physically not able to do so. I can only hope that other access channels are run as well as ours in Bennington. Our executive director and her staff are always looking to improve and broaden their programming so that there is a public forum for free speech, civic engagement, and an important alternative from monopolized media sources. In closing, I strongly encourage you to continue to ensure that our communities have access to local, unfettered community media by continuing to certify our local access channels as a common good for our communities and our state. Also, anything that you can do along with Comcast to enhance technology, resources, and opportunities for our access channels would be greatly appreciated. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you. Next, I'd like to go to Williston, and I would just like to let you know that I've been told by the VIT staff here that we've run over the time that they've allotted for us to do this hearing, and so we're going to hear from 2 more people from Williston, then we're going to have to end this public hearing. But anybody who wants to can write to us or go to our website and file comments with us about this matter. We'll be happy to read all of those. We do read all of the written comments that we receive in any format in which we receive them. So feel free to write to us. I think we've picked up very strongly what the theme of the evening has been, and so I think you can be confident that we know what all of you are thinking. So let's go to Williston and hear from the last 2 people for the evening.
My name is Mary Jane Dickerson, and from Jericho, Vermont, a retired professor of English at the University of Vermont, and the other half of Sundog Poetry Center, the nonprofit organization. And I would like to continue just a few words about the cultural impact of our local Mount Mansfield Community Access Television. They are at every event. They make sure they know what is going on. And when we went to them to ask about doing the poetry series, they organized, they contacted all of the local access televisions or stations around the state, and they were there. Somebody was there at every event. They have also collaborated with Vermont PBS because the whole series is now going to be a program on Vermont PBS. And I think that collaboration that our local access stations do with other venues around the state is so very important for our cultural lives. As an educator, I feel that I have been able to continue being an educator, though retired officially, because in my poetry workshops for the last 13 years, number 14 will be this April, they always come, they always televise our final community poetry reading at the local library. And they cover so much in my area. And if all the local access stations do that well, we are well served. And everything should be done to heighten and to increase the quality of what they're able to do. Thank you so much.
Thank you. If we could hear from the next person.
I think I am it.
All right.
You have to end with a Southern accent. I'm sorry.
No need to apologize. I'd like to thank everybody for coming out tonight. I appreciate all the comments that we received. And like I said, if you didn't get to speak tonight, you'd like us to hear what you have to say, please write to us. We will read everything that you send us. Have a nice evening. Good night.
Thank you.
Start talking. Hello. I'm on? Hello, we're here in Brattleboro.
We protest.
The conference recording has ended.